Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the very last video of 2025. This is a very exciting video. We have the best books I read. It's like the top 10. I was going to do a top 10, but I read 150 books. There's a lot more than 10. If I was going to do a top 10, I would have to Brian Lee Durfee the shit out of this video. So basically what I have is we have a top 25. Only the top 2 or 3 are really in order. I have a few favorites. So I tried to make a top 10. But every single one of these books was on there. And you can't have 25 books in the top 10. And every single one of them, I felt like I couldn't take off the list. It was an extraordinarily good year for reading. I actually was able to add a vast amount of favorite books of all time this year. It was extraordinarily prolific and fruitful, and I couldn't have wished for anything better. First off, before I actually get to my 25, like I said, I've read a lot and I had a lot of favorites this year. Before I get into my top 25, I do actually have a few honorable mentions that I want to list off for you guys. The first honorable mention that I have is Hawksbill Station by Robert Silverberg. I read this on my Kindle a little bit earlier in the year, actually just a few months ago, a month or 2 or 3 ago. This is perfect Silverberg. Future corrupt government essentially creates a wormhole that they send people back 1 billion years into the past for like penal colony reasons. Whenever they have people who are going against the government, they throw them into the past. And people just have to live there. And that's the story of the penal colony, Hawksbill Station, and them essentially just trying to survive. And then you're getting more and more pieces of the puzzle of what the hell actually happened throughout. It's excellent. It's very short. It reads awesome. The next honorable mention is one that actually could have been in my top 25. It should have been in my top 25, but I made the top 25 before I remembered that I read this year. Mystic River by Dennis Lehane. I'm not a huge thriller person. I'm not a huge crime fiction person. This is 100% thriller. And definitely like some crime fiction. There's like a murder mystery thing going on. But just the heart in this book and the way that like hurts in childhood and trauma from childhood carries through life. And the way how mistakes compound. You can trip early in life, which may lead to another trip. And sometimes you keep tripping. Sometimes you can trip and get up. This is extraordinarily emotional, I hear, and I imagine that this hits parents different, like Pet Sematary hits different as a parent. I'm not a parent, but I've heard that a lot about this book. Expertly written. It came out in 2001. The Robert Silverberg is from 1996, by the way. Excellent. Dennis Lehane also wrote Shutter Island. I saw the movie, but this is the only book that I've read by Dennis Lehane. Final honorable mention here that I need to bring up just because this is the ultimate slump buster. Bone, the graphic novel, here in the complete 1,300-page edition by Jeff Smith. Comic books for whenever you're having a bad time. If you just need something easy, breezy, this will give you a laugh every few pages for sure. It's funny in the same way that like Robin Hood Men in Tights is funny. It's very slapsticky, very humory, just hijinks over and over and over and over again. If you don't like funny stuff, you're not going to like this, but there's never a bad moment for this. If I'm in between books, if I'm in the middle of a book, if I'm feeling like I don't want to read anything whatsoever and I'm in a huge slump, I call this the slump buster because it's excellent. As you can see, I'm not even halfway through it yet, and I just hit page 600. Already putting it on here. This would definitely be like on my top comics of all time for sure. So, I have all of my books lined up here. You can't really see them. We're going to start with our top 25. And remember, there's no exact super order, so the first one I'm going to mention here isn't like the least one. We have The Road by Cormac McCarthy from 2006. This is post-apocalyptic, father and son just trying to survive in the world after God knows what happened. I can't remember if they even tell you how, if it's a radiation or a war thing or something. But it's super brutal, it's super realistic. A lot of people say this is the best post-apocalyptic. I'll leave that up to your decision to make when you read the book. It's super excellent. Don't expect closure on a lot of things, because it's definitely like there's the big story of The Road, and the actual book of The Road is kind of just like a snippet of it, which I really like because it leads to complete ambiguity and it leaves you guessing at the end, and it inspires so much discussion. It's awesome. The next in our top 25 is Monstrous Regiment by Terry Pratchett. Discworld, I cannot remember what number, but it was published in 2003. This is, if you watched my last video, you would see that I gave a little bit of a review for Hogfather, Terry Pratchett. I said that the story of it wasn't very great, but I don't really come to Discworld because of the stories. A lot of the time they're kind of just whatever. This is a different example. This is an example of a story that's fucking awesome. This is basically Terry Pratchett does Mulan in Discworld. There's a bunch of gender bending. A bunch of women join the army dressed as men to get in. Mulan. Antics ensue. It's extraordinarily heartfelt. There's a lot of ethics that go on in here. And it's just a complete delight. I think this might be like my second or third favorite Discworld book of all at this point. I've read about 10. Next up on our list, I'm going to count the first one of this, The Dying Earth by Jack Vance. Book 1, published in 1950. This is about as classic science fantasy as you could possibly get. Without this is direct inspiration for like Sun Eater. Well, let me move further back. This is direct inspiration for the Book of the New Sun, which is direct inspiration for the Sun Eater books, which are the popular thing right now. There would have been none of that without this. Super classic science fantasy to a point to where it's basically just swords and sorcery, but with like some futuristic stuff. I think a lot of it's only really considered sci-fi, mainly just because it's set so far into the future. It's set on Earth here, but it's so far into the future that the sun is dying and is ballooned up to a bunch of its size. It's all red. Everything's dying. People are evacuating or have already evacuated a long time ago. And the whole world's just going to shit. It's fucking awesome. I love everything about it. I have read the first 2 of these. I'm on to the 3rd. And I hope to finish this out next year in 2026. Next up, we have a collection of short stories. Asylum Piece by Kavan, published in 1940. Okay. What can be said about Kavan that I haven't said already? She's the ultimate sad bitch of the 1940s through the 60s. If you know of her, you're going to know Ice, her most popular and famous book from 1967. She had a series of mental breakdowns around World War I and World War II. And she ended up going 2 different stints, if I'm not mistaken, into mental asylums. This is what she wrote after she came out of the mental asylum the second time. She went from Helen Ferguson to Anna Kavan as she took the name of one of the protagonists in one of her earlier novels, and then this came out. This is snippets of kind of like her mental hellscape before, during, and after the mental asylum. And it is wacky. If you like sad stuff, ultimate alienation, just mental illness, paranoia, delusions, hallucinogenic everything. It's fascinating, and it's quite a lot. Next up here, there is a nonfiction, The Peregrine, by J.A. Baker, published in 1967. This is nonfiction nature narrative documentary type thing. You know BBC Earth with the David Attenborough? Yeah, this is basically that. There is a audiobook for this, which is actually narrated by David Attenborough. It's just like it's basically BBC Earth, but like 9 hours long, all about birds, falcons on, I believe it's the eastern shore of England back in the 40s or 50s or 60s. They would go around and follow peregrine falcons. And it's just documenting what happens and how they live and how they die and how they hunt and just the brutal trappings of nature. It's absolutely like existentially fantastic. I love it. I think you should all read this because it's just fascinating and amazing. Next up in our top 25, we have The Chrysalids by John Wyndham from 1955. I was debating because I read 2 John Wyndhams this year. I read The Chrysalids in physical, and then I read Day of the Triffids on my Kindle. I think Day of the Triffids is the more popular of the 2. It's excellent. They're both fantastic. But I think I personally like The Chrysalids more. You've got this futuristic world where I don't know if orthodoxy, but it's like future Christianity comes in and has taken over. Everyone's super religious, and in this future world there are mutants that can be born. You got mutant animals, mutant plants, and every once in a while you get mutant humans. These mutant humans are seen, anything mutated is seen as abominations to like Christ, essentially. So everything gets banished or killed or sent off. And this boy finds out that he has a bit of like a telekinetic thing going on, which is a mutation that he has to keep hidden. And he meets some other fellow mutant kids and everything. And there's a lot of alienation that then brings people together outside, and it's just it's really beautiful. The whole community comes together with them and they form something completely new. If you haven't read this one yet, I definitely suggest you give it a try. The next book on our top 25, The Blade Itself, Joe Abercrombie, 2006. Contrary to popular opinion, The Blade Itself is my favorite of the 3 books in the trilogy, The First Law. A lot of it seems to be the normal case that people think these get better and better and better as the trilogy goes on. I do believe that they have their merits. I love them all. This one is my favorite. It's super mean. It is your first thrust into the world of The First Law. It immediately thrusts these horrible characters upon you, and it finds a way to be very funny while it does it. And being funny in books like that is often a recipe for disaster. In this case, it turned out excellent. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I look forward to reading past where I'm at of the first series. The next book on our top 25 is another short story collection. This is a collection of 2 short story collections, actually. Songs of a Dead Dreamer and Grimscribe by Thomas Ligotti. So, Thomas Ligotti was a huge pessimistic philosopher guy. He wrote The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, which is basically just a giant book about why you should probably like kill yourself. But yeah, A lot of that philosophy kind of travels into this. This is horror with like a capital H. If you want like haunted mannequins and marionettes and schoolhouses and just have all the little most sacred things in life fucked with and tweaked in like a weird fiction horror existential kind of way, it doesn't get any better than this. This book actually kind of crept under my skin in a way that a lot of horror doesn't. I read a lot of horror, but it's kind of just entertainment. This actually kind of like, this will get you thinking a little bit. So much of this can actually like happen, and it's terrifying. Next book on our list of 25, of the top 25, is The Lions of Al-Rassan by Guy Gavriel K., published in 1995. This is damn near just historical fiction, but there's like a couple extra, there's an extra celestial body in the sky, essentially. This is some of the most beautiful prose that I've ever read. This is the only Guy Gavriel K book that I've read. I need to get to Tagana and a million of his other books. Hopefully, I will get a couple more of his books under my belt in 2026. I think what I love most about this book is definitely the prose and the execution. The story building is quite excellent. Guy Gavriel K is very known for being an author's author. He is the author that a lot of your favorite authors take inspiration from. And you can I can really see exactly why that is the case. This is art. This is like, you read this when you want to read craft. It's just, everything is, the execution is just so fucking perfect. Carrying along here, another fantasy book, we have Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, published in 1996. This is the second book, the middle book in the Farseer trilogy, the first trilogy that within the realm of the Elderlings books. It's my favorite of the three, easily. There's a lot of emotional devastation that goes on in here. There's a lot of like, this is the ultimate of slow burn fantasy, really. You're not going to get a whole bunch of huge high stakes and like crazy plot. A lot of this is very internal and personal. A lot of it is going on in the head. There's a lot of conversations instead of action. There's a lot of dialogue and just feelings back and forth. There's pulling the heartstrings and then holding it there for like several hundred pages and just putting the knife in and then twisting it. Instead of you never take the knife out. You always just put it back in and fucking twist that bitch. It's mean. It's mean. It's long. And the prose is excellent. If you are one of the few remaining people who has not yet read anything by Robin Hobb, I think you should get on that and fix that. They are excellent. Next up on our list here, Blackmouth, Ronald Malfi. When did this come out? Blackmouth came out in 2022. A lot of people say, oh, it's It. They bring up Stephen King's It. I think a lot of that's just because it's like the horrors from the past that happened in your childhood. Yes, that does equate, and yes, Ronald Malfi is a Stephen King fan. I think everyone, well, I can't say everyone is, but when I was reading this, I couldn't help but feel that this was the book that I wished Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury was. Something Wicked This Way Comes was my very first read of the year, this year, and I actually came out of it disappointed, which was sad because I really wanted to like it. This is perfectly executed horror. It'll pull on your heartstrings. It's completely real enough to where everything's almost like everything's pretty plausible in it, outside of like a few little tiny things. But there's basically nothing wrong with it. The prose is easy. It definitely has like working man. Well, working man prose is a bad thing. It sounds bad. It sounds derogatory. I don't mean it in that way. I think I could probably read this book every year and be happy about it. That's about as good of an endorsement as I can give. This is excellent. Next book on our list, and a fucking chunker, we have Imagica by Clive Barker from 1991. If I'm not mistaken, this is Clive Barker's biggest book, his most daunting achievement, if you will. And it kind of takes on everything all at once, from like the god thing to like there's different dimensions of realities that are that you can go through, from like portals and stuff and shit. There's crazy architecture of castles. There's horrifying demons in here. There's a lot of demon sex. That's cool. I think there was like some drugs in here. It's been a minute. But holy shit. And they're trying to go and they have to like reconcile the universe. Which is a bit of a feat and an undertaking. It's wild. It's crazy. It's big. It's long. The back half seemed a little bit long to me, but I want to go back and read it again so I can get a better opinion on that and a better understanding of just how that is. There's no series. It's just one big ass book, and it's excellent. It's kind of heavy. I'll say it again. The prose is fucking awesome. Clive Barker is awesome. This is the only book I've read. This is the first book I've read from him. The only one, actually. I've only ever read plays from him other than this. None of those made this list. They are good, though. Continuing on, we have Hyperion by Dan Simmons from 1989. I think everybody knows about Hyperion at this point. Canterbury Tales in the future in space, of 6 different individuals coming to Hyperion, the planet. There's 6 individual like little novellas inside of it, of the stories of what got each of these individuals to come on this journey. Some of them are heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. The tragedy in this is excellent. There's some like mystery and thriller and crazy stuff going on. It's a highly diverse book, much more diverse than I would have thought. I can see why it's kind of jostling in the top 5 sci-fi of all time spot on a lot of the major lists. And there's still like 3 or 4 more books after this in a series that I haven't read. The majority consensus is that Hyperion is the best. There are a lot of people who will tell you that the follow-up, Fall of Hyperion, is better. I'm excited to see where I fall on that. Continuing onward. This is 4-book set. I'm only going to include The 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch by Philip K. Dick from 1965. Gods. Drugs. Drug gods. It's in the future. People are going off to Mars, and there's just huge climate catastrophe going on. Everyone's horrible. You've got this drug from the government called Candy, which is like it helps them kind of tamper you down a little bit, but they've got this new drug from Palmer Eldritch, which is like the Pokemon evolution drug, to which will like evolve you consciously and metaphysically and all this crazy Philip K. Dick stuff. I think it is the second. No, I think this is my new favorite Philip K. Dick book because of just how absolutely batshit crazy it is. There's like body horror in here out of nowhere, like hallucinatory body horror shit, which is honestly terribly unnerving and excellent. It's great. Continuing on, I have to pull my Stephen King card out at some point. We have Needful Things by Stephen King. This is Stephen King doing satire, like small town satire. And the thought experiment of, what actually happens when you actually give everybody what they all want? and it doesn't go good. It goes bad quickly. Crazy, hilarious, over the top, wacky, zany, maniacal, straight from the brain of Stephen King. Leland Gaunt is one of my favorite bad guys of Stephen King worlds, like, period, at this point. It's such an accomplishment. This takes what Stephen King took a stab at originally in Salem's Lot, of a whole small town's intricacies and interplaying, and it does it better. I think that he definitely nailed everything with this. Some people are a little put off with the ending. I think that's typical Stephen King. I think it's perfectly fun and good. I liked it a whole lot, actually. I really loved this. I like this enough to where it made it onto my top 10 Stephen King. I don't know if it made it on the top 5, but it's definitely on the list. Read it. Next up, The Black Company by Glenn Cook, the first book in the Books of the North trilogy and the Black Company proper series. This somehow finds a way of being completely bleak and dark without going into complete nihilism, which I applaud Glenn Cook on a lot. The people in here are very bad. There's not really any good people whatsoever in this book. Even the good guys are bad guys. There is no evil. There's just bad guys fighting bad guys to see who will survive and actually live on to be bad another day. The world is overrun with horrifying demons. Demon gods are like walking the earth. Everything's going bad. People are dying left and right. Black Company has like a revolving wheel of narrators. In this first series, we have Croker. He's the medic, and we get to see him essentially taking down the annals and the history of the Black Company as he writes it, and that is what we see in the book. It's fascinating. It's really, really good. Next up on the list is Blackwater by Michael McDowell from 1983. I tried to look it up because there's 6 parts of this. I saw that the first one was 1983, but then it also said that the last one was 1983. So maybe this whole big-ass 6-part series in a book came out all in the same year. This is another example of, this is basically just historical fiction. I know it doesn't look like it, and there's twinges. There's a twinge of horror and fantastical elements in this, but it's in no way the focus. It's kind of just a feature. It's a small feature and a little flourish in it, which is very well executed and I think would be difficult to execute. This is a huge family lineage history of the Caskey family in, I believe it's like Alabama, somewhere in the swampy region down there. You just get to sit with multiple generations of this family. As they grow up, they get wealthy, they get poor, there's ups, there's downs. You get to see things happen to people as their children that form them, their personality, and carry with them in life that they instill into then their children. And you get to see how people evolve through multiple generations. Like, there's people who you see from their babies until like their deathbed. It's awesome. It's extraordinarily heartfelt. Every one of these characters is so extraordinarily well flushed out and believable. And I want to go back and read it again. This would be on top 5 of the year, easy. Absolutely easy. Next up on the list here from the Kindle, Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshimi. Here I have volume 8. I read all 17 of them. Stay. This was sold to me as a horror series of manga. I was looking for something in the realm of Junji Ito. This was the recommendation that ChatGPT gave me. And there's no ghosties in this. There's nothing paranormal in this. There's nothing crazy in this. There is a lot of fucking mental illness and just it's horror. It's like psychological horror. This is real horror. Everything in this is completely real and completely possible. By the way, this was 2017 to 2023 that these came out. It's this story about a mentally ill mother and her husband and her child. Everything's from the child's point of view, so it's his story. Just about how his mother does some horrible things and then essentially gaslights him and fucks his brain up, and it carries through his adult life. And everything it's just twisting the knife the entire time because you want to see these people do well. You want to see these people do well. You're rooting for them a lot, but they fight you with it. And no one ever gets what they want, and no one ever gets what they really deserve, the good that they deserve. People get bad. And then keep an eye out if you read these. Read the little excerpts in the very end because there's the afterwards from the mangaka. I believe I'm saying that right. The artist and the drawer, the manga guy. And even the afterwards evolve through the 17 volumes of the manga, and they give you a lot of insight into what's going on here. It jumped up. It's now my favorite manga of all time. I don't have physical copies of this, but I will be buying copies of all of these soon and rereading them and rereading them and rereading them. I felt a huge personal connection with this. There's so many moments that a lot of people have like home troubles. I think everyone has home troubles in some sense, but I noticed a lot in here that was going on that I could really personally relate to and that I felt a lot. It's extremely good. It's super art forward. There's not a whole huge amount of dialogue. You can speed through these very quickly. We're nearing the end. All right. For this next one, I just put Hainish Novels Volume 1 kind of as a out to where I could put the first 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a cheat to put the first 5 Hainish novels all at one. If I have to, I will pick The Left Hand of Darkness. That is my favorite Hainish novel. Let's talk about that one for a second. It's about social norms. It's about gender norms. It's about testing your outlook on the world, anthropology, ethics, gender roles, gender fluidity. Does gender exist? You know, everything got tackled here very early. These books were published between 1966 and 1974. She was extraordinarily ahead of her time when she wrote these. A lot of people find her prose to be either extraordinarily perfect or boring as shit. I get it. A lot of people don't like her story, the plots. First, LaKayla Gwynn she would have been the first person to tell you that a lot of her books don't even have plots. That's not what it's about. A lot of these books are people who have disagreements or are from culturally different backgrounds, putting their culture clash in a room and having those talk to each other. And it really makes you question and sit down and ask yourself, you know, like if you've got everything figured out when you think that you did, but perhaps there's another way to look at things. It's quite existential. Next on my list here, we have No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai from 1948. Books. This is the ultimate book of alienation on a personal level. If you think you're an introvert, if you think that you don't like people, if you think that you cannot understand or communicate with people, this is the poster child for that. It's horribly sad. It's horribly full of self-loathing and just not understanding yourself or the world, and how that carries on through the world. It's a lot of how that oftentimes leads to people taking their own lives, people being bad to themselves and others. It's one of the more bleak books that I've ever read, that's for sure. There's not a glimpse, there's not a pinprick of light in this book, or understanding, or consolation. There's no reverie. It's short, and it's heavy, and it is profound, and if I'm not mistaken, this still sells extraordinarily well in Japan, where it was written, because a lot of the people realized there that they could relate to this, which is a whole nother huge cultural conversation that we could have later. We may as well keep with some Japanese books here. This one's a little bit more happy, kind of. The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa from 1994. Think 1984 by George Orwell, but it was written in Japan. It's kind of like that. There's this island where the government controls thoughts and memories, to where you could wake up one day and the roses are still there, but no one knows what the hell they are, because all the memory and the knowledge of those things are taken. And more and more and more, the military and the government is taking these things away from you. They're taking your knowledge away from you. Things are evaporating off of the walls, essentially. And there's a small bit of people who try to fight back as little bit as they can as they're losing everything, and it's just this decline. There's just this decline as the entire picture is essentially being erased away, page by page. The last Japanese book here, and this is my favorite of the three that I read this year, we have The Woman in the Dunes by Kobo Abe from 1962. This is going straight into surrealism, existentialism, the myth of Sisyphus, where he has to push the boulder up the hill. I don't even know if that's Sisyphus. If it is, it's one of those guys, where he has to push the boulder up the hill every single day, and then it comes rolling back down. But in this one, there is a school teacher who's an amateur entomologist, so he loves bugs, and he loves to study bugs. So he has a day off, it takes a couple days off, and he goes down to the beach to go study stick bugs and just be alone and check out his bugs, just recharge and shit. And then he ends up in a hole where the sand is always coming down. It's getting in everything. You have to push it out. Every single waking moment of your existence and of your life, you have to be pushing this sand back, or else it will come and take you over and suffocate you and kill you. Like I said, it's in everything. It's over-consuming. It's this huge metaphor about how life will get on you and take you down. And it's beautifully surreal. There's a bunch of little illustrations in it, which are just weird. It's a short little thing. It's in, it's out. You can't put it down. And it's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. We've got Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe, published 1980 to 1983. My favorite is book 3, Sword of the Lictor. Starts out with the Shadow of the Torturer, the Claw of the Conciliator, the Sword of the Lictor, and Citadel of the Autarch. This is rather confusing. It's a lot. it's extremely complex and extremely layered. It's kind of one of those series where you need to reread it over and over and over again to fully understand it. There's a lot of Easter eggs everywhere. There's a lot of things that'll happen in like book 1 that won't be explained until like book 4, and then it makes you want to go back and read book 1 again with the knowledge of book 4 to go back and do it all over again and answer questions. The environment isn't even what you think it is. Everything is from the point of view of Severian, who was a torturer by trade, like state-sanctioned torturer, kind of like Glockta in the first Law series. And it's first person from him. So everything that you see is from his interpretation, and it's a completely different world, even though it's the same world, but it's dying Earth again, to where it's so far in the future that you have to extrapolate like 1 billion years or 1 million years into the future. And it's so wild and absolutely crazy. You have to think like there's been generations to where people left and then came back like from the planet, and everything's going on. The entire world is going to shit. There's things in here that are in the past, but this is so far in the future that things that are so far in the past from them that they're not understandable are so far in the future for us that they're not understandable. It's fascinating. So in that regard, it's science fiction. Technically, big scare quotes on that. I would put this as like fantasy, really, but people get mad at me when I say that. It's one of the most intriguing things I've read ever, to put it lightly. We have 2 books left, and these are the definitive top 2 favorite things I read this year. These are both now in like my top 10 favorite books of all time for sure. We have The Invention of Morel by Adolfo Bioy Cazares. This is from 1940. And actually, both of my favorite books this year are from 1940, which is kind of fun. This, I can't remember when it's set, but there's a fugitive who committed some crime that we never learn what the crime was, but he escaped from prison and he swam to this island where he's hiding out because he thinks he knows that the feds, the police, are going to be coming and looking for him because he just escaped prison. And he finds these people on this little island, and he watches them. And he watches them having their lives. And there's this girl on the island who he kind of falls in love with the sight of her. And he goes and he tries to introduce himself. And it doesn't, it's only a 100-page book, so I'll just tell you that. And it's one of those things to where it leaves you at the end of it. Your head is just tilted like a dog who just saw a magic trick. Because this book is essentially a magic trick. And it was written in like Argentina, I think. Somewhere, Latin America. And it's basically just like sci-fi, but it's literature, but it's like sci-fi. It's completely surreal. It's phenomenal. It's the most impactful, craziest 100 pages of text. You could read it in a day, or you could do what I did and read it over the course of a couple days. And I like to read like a page and then just think about it for like a while. You could do it with this. Ultimately rereadable, fascinating, and just intriguing, and so thought-provoking. Number 1, the very best book, and this is without question, The Stronghold by Dino Buzzati. You might find this book with its original title, which is The Tartar Steppe, Tartar. The Tartar Steppe. This is a purely existential novel. There's a young man who joins the military, and he is sent to an outpost where their entire lives and their entire job is to be in this outpost and to guard it and to be lookouts, staring out into this huge, vast desert. Because the enemy, quote unquote, the enemy, if they do come, they would come from the desert. No one knows who, no one knows when, no one knows if. But they know that if they do it, it would come from there. So it's this glimpse of life inside the barracks where these people are a lot of the time constantly on edge or just completely apathetic, who've been there for way too long. And it's about longing and waiting for inevitable things that may or may not ever happen. And there's people who've been there for so long, awaiting this thing that essentially never came for them. And what that does to your mind. And then there's a lot of sitting back in the end and asking yourself, I just sat back and waited for this thing. What is my life? What am I done? Who am I? It goes completely fucking existential. I love it. It is perfect. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It is the best book I read this year. Hands down. I want to read it again immediately. I want to buy copies for all my friends. You should buy a copy. It's perfect. It's excellent. That's my top 25 books for 2025. Cheers.